And now we're moving to the next one. It has to do with the reason why we are all here, why we are in Kigali. And for this, I think I may have to change my hat and for a moment be a facilitator, but at the same time, I'm the chairman of the African Drone Forum Advisory Board, made up of prominent members. And as the board, we give strategic advice, or we're giving, still do, to the ADF and how to progress. Is Tammy here? She's not here. One of our board members, and Giacomo, is he here? I hope they don't finish my champagne, so I need it before they do. Very well then. So for this next track, it has to do with why are we here and the tracks that we'll be going to tomorrow afternoon. In the morning, we are going to listen to some examples in terms of how drones have been utilized. But then in the afternoon, we are going to break up into 4 different sessions, and you are going to choose which session you'd like to attend. But to give you an idea of what they are, if I can please call the moderators of those sessions. So if I can have Harrison Wolf here. He's from the World Economic Forum, and he was very instrumental in terms of bringing in the regulators and the letters that were sent out. And then if I can have Mr. Olivier Defau. So Harrison is looking at the the track that has to do with regulations. Have a seat. And anyway, yeah. And Olivier is looking at the logistics track. If I can have Barbara. Correct. She's looking at connected skies. Oh, wonderful. And Antoine, technology. Great, great. So let's wait. So these will be, I come to realize there's only one lady, eh? Oh yeah, it's the luck of the draw anyway. So, ladies and gents, welcome. So we're here for you to explain to the audience in terms of what you expect, what you will discuss in each one of your tracks. So 5 minutes each to do that. We'll start off with Harrison on the regulation track.
Thank you. Turn on? Yes. Yeah, okay. Was there a video, is that for...
Do you have a video?
I thought we had a video.
Okay, fine. Video?
Or it might be for the Friday talk. I don't know. Oh, there we go.
The fourth industrial revolution, it's a fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological world. It's changing not only what we are doing, it's changing who we are.
It's really the notion of digital technology pervasively impacting every walk of life in every vertical industry on all parts of the globe.
Whether it's information technology and the acceleration we see in artificial intelligence, a lot is happening.
Society and how we're going to live is being defined right now.
The speed is mind-boggling. What I'm particularly concerned about is how little the world is prepared.
Harnessing this revolution requires the involvement of all stakeholders, from public and private sectors to academia and civil society. The World Economic Forum Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution Network ensures that the development and application of emerging technologies benefits both people and the planet. It is a network of centers for scalable impact, with locations in the United States, Japan, India, and China, bringing together stakeholders to identify the impacts of these technologies, co-design innovative governance protocols and policy frameworks, and pilot them with partners around the world.
If we are not innovative, if we're not creative enough, it will be very difficult to survive in this century.
Humans and machines are assisting each other, augmenting each other with skills.
Humanity itself will be changed with this superintelligence, and we are at the doorstep of that era.
The technologies available today will impact and change healthcare forever.
52% of the encounters with our primary care physicians were handled virtually. Just a massive change.
The network will work closely to share research, analysis, and learning, and help design new technologies in ways that respect societal values.
It's where innovation is happening, about how we guide this revolution.
We can solve the many social issues through the digital technologies.
My hope is that we have a robust discussion for how this can truly help our world solve some of the hard-pressed challenges that we have today.
Together, we can shape a future that truly benefits and empowers people.
The world has changed. We can never ever go back to yesterday.
Great. So that does a better job of explaining sort of why we're all here. But to begin, it's an honor for me to be here in Rwanda, where so much revolutionary work has taken place, and where I've had the immense pleasure to have been able to collaborate over the last 2.5 years. Rwanda, as we've seen, truly exemplifies what's possible in the fourth industrial revolution. And what we are seeing today, what many of us saw yesterday, is exactly what's possible and what's different about this moment. I think countries willing to run while others crawl or walk, whether in a heavily regulated field like aviation or an unregulated field like artificial intelligence, are differentiating themselves as leaders in the field of emerging technologies. Just a few years ago, the government of Rwanda began a journey of redefining what's possible and creating an enabling regulatory ecosystem that could support operations that people all over the world said were impossible. Thousands of lives saved later without any injuries on the ground or in the air, and a domestic ecosystem blossoming with increasing investments domestically and internationally. We see the benefit not just to Rwanda, but to all nations who are now endeavoring to create a regulatory environment that they can use to help their people. On behalf of the World Economic Forum, I'm deeply humbled to host and chair the African Drone Forum Regulatory Track, which brings together more than 50 regulators from 23 countries to identify the challenges that you have in advancing drone operations in your jurisdiction and getting your feedback on materials that we've been working on in collaboration with the World Bank and stakeholders and shareholders in this autonomous aviation future that we all want to see. I look forward to getting your feedback on both model requests for proposals that will help generate service provisions in your countries, as well as an unmanned traffic management primer for governments to understand what will be useful to you. Our team working on these publications collaborated with a fantastic group of experts in the field based all around the world, providing case study analysis of responses in Mozambique in consultation with the World Food Program. We have a colleague of mine, Fane Greenwood, who led that. She's in the back there. We had other consultants who worked with us, Joelle Maynor and Kenneth Muhangi, who have done a tremendous job in working with the World Bank and other stakeholders to generate materials that we hope will get your input on to be effective internationally. Lastly, it is a great pleasure to be able to welcome ICAO to join this conversation here at the African Drone Forum. And to really demonstrate the leadership that they have all shown for 75 years in this space. So thank you to our hosts at the World Bank, to Edward and his team, to the Rwandan government, who's always been an amazing host throughout this entire process, and to my colleague Courtney, who's here supporting all of these efforts. I think that the regulator track, with so many of you eager to participate, will truly bring the conversation and discussion that we want to have to move the ball forward internationally. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Harrison. We expect all the regulators to be attending that regulatory track. That's tomorrow. Olivier, logistics.
Thank you. So I wanted to start by reminding everyone that drones for delivery are a means to an end. And that end is to provide equitable access to healthcare. And we must keep that in mind. This is the important thing to keep in mind. And drone as a technology is only a part of a complex system. That's why we call it unmanned aerial system. And in order to have a safe and reliable delivery, that system needs to be in place. That system is composed of the technology. Yes, you need to have a performing technology. Yes, you need to have the regulatory and the policies that are adapted. You need to integrate your UTM with the ATM, and all those will be discussed in different tracks. But there is one aspect, one key part of this system, complex system, that we need to take into consideration, and that part is the integration of the drone as an additional mode of transportation into an existing supply chain. Public supply chain, private supply chain, health supply, it doesn't matter. Because integrating drone as an additional mode of transportation will affect the day-to-day of the end user or the beneficiary. That can be a professional logistician at the warehouse, all the way down to a nurse at the health facility who is receiving goods or sending sample back. Their day-to-day operation will be affected. The procedure that they're following will be affected. The work, the product flow, the information, the communication flow, the chain of custody will be affected by adding to the option an additional mode of transportation. And this is what we're going to be talking about in the drone logistic track. No matter how great your technology is, you can make delivery without logistics. And so we're going to be gathering logistic professional, government representative from nurse or professional logistician, warehouse manager, drone service provider, implementing partners, and even newcomers to logistics. I encourage you to come and join and learn and share your own experience and discuss the how drone can be integrated into an existing health supply chain. And to facilitate that session that we'll have tomorrow, we'll have representatives from all those different organizations who has over the years been figuring out the how drone can be integrated. So we'll start by making sure that the baseline is on common understanding of what is the day-to-day operation, and we'll take the example of the Tanzania health supply chain. And then we will play a game. We will divide in different groups, and each group will have a scenario with their challenges and their objective, and they will have to decide, is that scenario is more appropriate to use land-based traditional mode of transportation, or is drone more adapted to that scenario? And they'll go through the thinking about how to make that decision. What needs to be in place in order to either use drone or land-based? And we'll come back after that game and discuss those challenges and solutions and share that with professional logistician and health worker. And we finally, tomorrow, we will end by sharing with all the attendees tools, templates, resources that they can take back with them to their country and start or continue the discussion with within their organization, within their department, about how they can integrate drone into their existing system. On day 3, we'll have a plenary, but you won't have the choice. You'll have to be here, so I don't have to convince you to be here. So to save time, thank you.
Thank you, Olivier. Thank you. I get the sense while Harrison is looking at regulations, you're looking at implementing the logistics end-to-end on the value chain to see how you can use drones, how can it be beneficial, when to use drones, when not to use drones in terms of delivery of services to your intended participants. So thank you for that. Madam Barbara, Connected skies.
Thank you. So if I can have the clip.
Oh,
yeah. So thank you very much. So first of all, thank you for having me here. So just to give it a background, so I was pleased that some of you already mentioned GSMA in the previous presentation. GSMA is an association that represents the mobile operators, all mobile operators of the world. So it's about 750 operators in the world, plus the ecosystem player, which are around 350. So we take care that the networks, the interoperability works. So for example, you are all using your mobile phones, you're used to use the mobile phones, and you also use the wire roaming. So that's one of the things that GSMA did a while back in the 80s for supporting to have an homogeneous interoperability across all the globe. So why I'm here? So what we want to discuss in the section going forward is the connectivity aspects. So that's why we created these new sections about the called Connected Skies. So let me see if I can. What we're going to talk in this session, so we will have a variety of speakers. I think we will have about 15 at the moment. And we wanted to have a conversation. Since it's slightly more a niche aspect, we're going to be also having the discussion down on the open theater. So we want everybody to participate to the talk and share their thoughts. What we're going to look at is actually first at what has happened in Rwanda, but also in Africa in general, what is done so far. As we said already before, you are actually at the forefront of this technology, particularly for BVLOS. There's a lot of actual operational flights in Africa, so you actually can teach the rest of the world what is possible to do with sometimes minimal assets available. So we're going to look at the first what is happening right here in Africa, and then we're going to have a conversation about what it is the UTM, what they offer, what it is the importance of having the connectivity for the UTM, to support the UTM, not just the drone operation, and also what are the challenges, also looking at the challenges that you have done here for the Lake Kivu, but also the previous one in Lake Victoria, what has been the discussion points on the connectivity side, what we as an industry we can support better and help to make sure that we have the capabilities to support drone operation at UTM. So just to give you a little bit of an information is, if I get, can I get the next slide please? It's not. So you don't need to look at this one. What I want to show is that we are looking at the networks of the future as being able to serve better the ecosystem of different solutions. So we obviously are always being used to have the connectivity supporting the customer, the user, the end user that is you with the mobile phone. Looking at the future, we will see a variety of devices, which you already see now. So we have to be able to have a flexible, agile network where you can adapt it to your needs. And that's where we are designing the network of the future by supporting this need. It is a complicated task, but this task also needs a collaboration and a dialogue. We are from the telco industry, so we understand very well our network works, but we do not understand the other side. So just to give you an idea, I started working in the space of drones 4 years ago, and I spent the last 3 years just being able to understand what aviation is saying, the terminology, what they mean, what is the strong point of aviation, what is that you need in order to be able to design and have a dialogue even. So that is very important for this session that we're going to have, is to have an open dialogue with other issues, why these are an issues, how can be maybe mitigated or avoided, and how we can solve it better together. And as I said, this is just a complex system. I know that maybe more of you will not be aware of the full capability of the network. So you are used to or utilize the mobile network as a user of the phone, but not in a different way. We will also have a discussion of other type of connectivity, not just the cellular connectivity, and also how all these different connectivity can be integrated and operate together. So just to conclude, if I can get to the next slide. I want to show you a small graph of where we see the cellular network support. I'm not going to go into detail, but as we will use it also as a base for tomorrow to see what are the capabilities and the services that the network can offer to the different stakeholders. And now these are best placed, maybe, to be able to also support the business model. We talked about also today the business model, so that's very important. All the solution has to be sustainable. Therefore, we see that using cellular network will allow you a scale and also lower costs sometimes, depending on what you do. But it is a good base for allowing operation that otherwise would not be possible. And as a conclusion, I just want to give you numbers. You can see that we already have reached the billion of mobile subscribers. We are going to boost as individual SIM connectivity. We're going from what we have now, almost 8 billion of SIM, individual SIM, going to have almost 10 or 9 in 2025. Just in Africa, I think we will have reached in 2025 1 billion of individual subscription. So it's ramping up, and most of the new connections that you will see, they're not coming from individual, from telephones. They're coming from all other devices. We are already supporting smart metering. We're supporting healthcare devices. We also have a car that they are having the connectivity. So more and more you will see that this ubiquitous type of connectivity will support a variety of services. So for concluding, I wanted to basically join all, have a conversation, also share your learning or share your difficulty that you have. And what we want to come out at the end of the session is to understand what is the next technical, but also non-technical challenge that we need to work in the coming future to make sure that we are supporting at best the operation, like the operation that you're having here in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. In simple terms, what this track is about in terms of drones, a drone to fly needs an operator, and the operator normally has got a remote control or a tablet or a smartphone or whatever app they're using, and they have to send a signal to the drone. So this is what we're talking about. Yeah. Now, we have heard the term VLOS, which stands for virtual line of sight, so that the air traffic controller usually wants to see where the drone is at all times. Then you have the BVLOS, beyond virtual line of sight. And this is where Connected Skies track comes in, because you need to have a link. We normally call it a C2 link, and you can use either a GSMA card or a satellite or an RF signal to try and communicate between the operator and the drone. So that's the track that's going to be happening tomorrow. So thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
If I can call on Antoine.
Sure.
Right. There we go.
Thank you.
So this is the technology piece.
As much as regulation, training, logistics, infrastructure, market, social acceptance are critically needed for a drone market to bloom in Africa or otherwise, there is one thing we can definitely not do without. It's a drone. I'm the geek guy to remind you this very fact. So in this session, we will be discussing drone technology, and I'll be facilitating it. My personal background has been drone for the last 16 years. In 2009, I co-founded SenseFly, and I acted as CTO for 9 years. The session, is that working? The session will be split in two parts. Before giving the mic to the drone makers, the real geeks creating those platforms, we will first let the direct users of these drones, tell about their experience using that technology, tell about the successes they've had on the field, tell us about what typically in African continent, in African conditions, what are those technologies that are key, those that work best, and maybe hopefully also tell us about their frustration, which technology are not suited, which will be very good for the drone makers to, in the second part, address those frustrations and tell us about the groundbreaking features and technological improvement they're bringing to their platform. We will have a total of 12 speakers, if I'm not mistaken, representing as many companies and organizations, ranging from superstars like Zipline to a more, let's say, younger companies, like some of the competitors you saw before today. We will have a research organization like Fine VT coming from all the way from South Korea, and we will have, of course, operators like Cherries. I don't want to steal their show, and I don't want to steal your time, so I'll leave it at that. One important detail, though, this particular breakout session will happen in this room. We're lucky. So if everything I said before is not a good enough reason, if you attend this session, you will not have to leave your seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antoine. Thank you. So in other words, if you want to meet the people who make drones and fly drones, you're more on the technical side, this is the session to attend. With those remarks, please, let's give a hand to all our panelists. Thank you very much. And now I switch on to my other hat, and I call on Rosa. Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gents.